Alrighty, guys, time to wrap it up for today. It's 3:30, and this has been a roller coaster of a day, but it is net to the upside. So look at this day. We can actually see it here on the F2 how crazy this day is. It looks like support held at 5260s. That was one level above the obvious when we started off this morning. But man, what a day this afternoon has been. It's been pretty crazy rotations back and forth. So we started off and with all the news this morning. Let me go back to that one real quick. The news this morning was pretty, let me see, the Richmond Fed number. That's not it. Richmond Fed number was really bad, -13. It didn't do much in terms of news. In terms of 10 o'clock, nothing much happened around there. The whole thing started taking off, and there was like a steady run up here in the morning. Yeah, steady took off. We started off range bound, and we said pretty much look to sell the. We were looking for shorting the 5240s and the 50s for rotations back down, and we were looking to buy down towards lower support areas. We never got a shot at that. They started taking out these two resistance areas. It was not even a shot at hesitating. There was a little bit going on in the morning in terms of we had this slop going on right there. If I scroll back a little bit, this slop we had going on in the morning, that was right at that 50 level. So that was the hesitation. And as they took that thing out, they was not looking back at that after that point. This was the spot to potentially to look for a short trade. There's no rush to get short there. That's usually uh, it's not as high probability, but if it's good trade location if it works out. But I was just sitting on that thing watching it, and as they start taking it out, I figured I'm not going to step in front of that one. So initially, when you were thinking range bound, that was a potentially short area. And if you were looking at one level outside the obvious at 5260s, they ran it up there and then some as well. So they took both of those levels up pretty hard. Then the rotation, reverse retest in the 50s once before they start heading back up again. So that was it in the morning. There was like a steady move to the upside. And after the London close, that's when we got that last pop here. London closed, they start pulling back, and then we got this crazy run up here. May have been something to do with Besant and China. I saw a few headlines out there, but I don't know exactly which one would have caused this to happen. But massive move to the upside. I was looking at the short setup there after this initial rundown. So you're looking at this is the Tablet run up. Oh, sorry, this is the London high. And it starts pulling back, and I'm thinking at this point, okay, we have a shot at retracing back to the mean. So when it's a pretty good move to the upside, I get short, right, aggressive short at the tab. It had a nice move going on the downside. I was in a break-even trade, and then this I got stopped out before this happened. But I was stopped out, and okay, fine. So that didn't work, and I wasn't going to be aggressively re-engaging it at that point. Then this whole thing happened. I was like, oh shit, that that was a surprise. Ran right up here. I took another long trade after this run up, thinking, okay, so something happened. Maybe the market is in it's going to be a retesting these highs. So after this pullback, reverse retesting this level right at the mode, nice move to the upside. Another break-even trade, then it stopped me out, and I didn't re-engage it since. And then this whole thing on the downside happened. I figured like this is kind of crazy, so I did not do much about it. I did try a short on the Nasdaq there. I showed you that before, but I'll show you that later again. But I got shaken out of that one. But so two trades on the ES. I'm up $10 on that, and that's about it. I have not re-engaged it since. Though this afternoon was pretty interesting. That the retest held here at the low, and that was actually a pretty good trade. If you were looking at the reverse retest, that first level I would not have taken. I would be a little bit less aggressive on that one. And when the third, well, usually the first retest is the one you want to take. And if you have taken that, you would have been basically shaken out of it. But if you have a big move like that, you have to be a little bit less aggressive on it. And if you did, you got so that third retest, and when that failed, well, that's when you really set up for someone covering their shorts, and they started a nice little move to the upside. But you can see they took it a little bit below the mean, but they were right at this support area, four little edge, 5260s, and that held, and then they traded right back up in a nice trade to the upside. Since then, up to that first standard deviation, stalled, and then right back down again. And now we are pretty much holding in the middle of this range. So a pretty interesting trading day. So two trades on the ES. I would start off range bound, bias to the upside. I would be watching these levels. At this point, the 5270s, that would be the level to watch. These two support areas, if they come out, I would take off the long bias, go back range bound. So that's the way I would look at it. So as long as they can trade above this 5270s and the 60s, I would stay range bound with a slight bias to the upside and see if they can make something out of it. Now they haven't they could not quite hold above that 5300. That would have been a great scenario on the because when they start taking this out, then this pop happened and they took out the 5300s. That was a pretty good signal that there was some upside in front of us. But news and then complete reversal of that. Okay, so then there you have it. They back below the 5300s, and as such, we're staying range bound. If they can get up above it again and close above it, I'll stay on the long side and see how far they can take it. On the Nasdaq and the bonds, I have not traded bonds today. I have not been trading bonds for a while now, actually, so I'm not going to be super aggressive on that. And it's not going anywhere right now. It's just going sideways. So the fact that the bond market is not reacting a whole lot is a good sign. That just tells you that there's a certain amount of calm in the bond market. But they're holding around 113.16, so it's pretty much staying in the range. It bounced off that low. Now, if you get the retest in the overnight, and I'm still looking for that retest of that area, the 112.30s, and that holds, that could set up a nice move to the upside. At this point, this could just be a bounce of today. Still looking for that retest of 112.30. So still thinking short out of the market, watching these levels now, the 130.26. I would probably say that 26.27, this two little edge here, if they start trading above that, look for that retracement trade. Otherwise, I would look for short setups against these two, the 13.20 and the 26.27 here for rotations back down. That's about it. So we'll see if this was just what the bond market's going to do going into tomorrow. On the Nasdaq side, also crazy volatility there. The only trade I took on the Nasdaq was this move here after that rundown here. Remember, I took a long trade on the EES over here, and I got shaken out. So then that was failing. Okay, fine, it's not working. I took a short trade on the Nasdaq because that was moving a little bit better. It looked like they had a shot. I went in a pretty good move trade here. They ran it down, and then right back up again, and then they flopped around, and they took me. Well, sorry, I was not in the trade on that one. I was in the trade when they started pulling back, and they just kind of went sideways on me, and then I believe I got shaken out of that trade over here. And then that was right before they popped, and that would have taken me out. That would have stopped me out of the market, and then just to see it run right back to the mean. So I got lucky on that trade, but man, crazy stuff. So range bound, I would say. What am I hearing? Something in the background. It's kind of weird. Or someone has a mic on. Maybe you got a mic on, Mihail. That's what I'm hearing. I'm hearing myself. I'll turn off your mic, Mihail. There you go. All right, you muted, Mike. Mihail. Anyway, so on the Nasdaq, same story there. If they can hold above the 220s, I would start off with range bound. But if they close below it here, start taking out this 220s and the 200s, I would go back range bound on the Nasdaq. But at this point, if they can close above that 220, I would start off range bound with a bias to the upside. But we'll see if that happens. Looks like again some weakness here in the afternoon, but in the last part of the day. But we'll see how they hold up. And Nasdaq has been pretty freaking awesome. Big move to the upside. And then, of course, as they took out that 380 level, that 5 little edge at 390 now, that's the one to watch for moves to the upside. That comes out again, we may have a shot to trade back up again. But as I said, we have been in a reasonably tight range on the Nasdaq, looking to buy against that 220 or 220 to 230s, and I'm going to adjust this edge down here a little bit. It's going to be down here at the 225 to 230s. But if they close below that one, I would start off just range bound and take off the long bias. So one trade on the Nasdaq, that was just $9 worth. And a day like this, you can make a little coin if you can stick with a trade, but it's too freaking volatile, you know. And I took one more trade on gold. That was a long trade as it was retracing a bit. And I was in a pretty good trade. It popped all the way up here to the 420. So I was in at 15, I was up like $50, and then it took me out. Which that just tells you how volatile this is. So one trade on gold and was shaking out of that one too. And now they're down here at the 33.80. So they were up to 3,500 this morning. So, and I had to show you this on the capital flow chart. You see, and this is what I'm talking about. Look at gold. They were up all the way up here to 3,500 in the overnight. Then the retracement started, and you see they were first run down to the 34.30 to 40s, and then they knocked it all the way down these single pins. So the last couple of days of craziness, freaking all reversed back down to the 33.80s. So this is crazy stuff, and it's tradable if you can get on the right side of it. But we talked about this morning. And if they start taking out these upper levels, and I believe the level we were talking about here on gold was we were talking about this is the overnight going into today. No, yes. Let me see here. I had to scroll it so hard. And this overnight, they over the London. So the 34.60s and the 34.50s. If these two came out, that's when we were looking for a retracement trade. And you see what happens after they start taking that out. First down to this 34.30 to 40s, and then just absolutely annihilated it. So everything, massive shakeout on that one. So that's gold. Very crazy. So trade that with a lot of caution. And then finally, so one trade there, $9 on that trade. That could have been like $100 easily. If you got right side of that thing, I mean, this little trade I took up here was a good fit worth of $50 before it knocked me out. And that tells you up $50, down $50, and that was it. And then oil, just they were up a little bit here in the morning. 64.20 held, they're pulling back a little bit. But I'm not looking at the oil to rally a whole lot. So I'm thinking this is a good spot to look for short channels against this 63 to 64 level, and see if we can see rotation back down to that 61 area. So still looking for short setups on oil, but it's been kind of choppy here, back and forth. So a couple of big moves on oil. Going into tomorrow, but I would start range bound on oil. If anything, I would start with a slight bias to the upside. If they trade below that 63.10s, I would or 63s, I would take off that long bias and go back range bound on oil. All right, back to the ES, and you see here. So on the ES, looking at the news for tomorrow, we have Fed speakers tomorrow in the morning. Then we have PMI composite at 9:45. We have new home sales at 10, oil report at 10:30, 5-year auction at 1. So that's what we got going tomorrow. So pretty interesting dynamic on that one. So there you go. Now the only thing I can see here, and we had a 2-year auction at 1. Maybe that was part of that crazy runabout on the E indices, the 2-year auction. I haven't heard anything about it though, but that was right at 1 o'clock when the big sell-off happened. So anyway, for news for tomorrow, a fair amount of news, and then we have mortgage apps at 7 tomorrow morning as well. But so we've got a little bit of news to deal with tomorrow. But at this point, oh, look at that, now we're popping. Nice little poppy going into this crazy stuff. So it looks like we're holding support at least. So, but I'm not trading it this late in the session. I'm just kind of watching it. So at this point, stay range bound, slight bias to the upside. It looks like at least we get started in the overnight, and I'll see you guys back in the morning, and then we'll go at this again, see what's going to happen. All right, guys, later.